The previous basket is under review.
Welcome in to another episode of Weekend Under Review. That is Matthew Winick. I am Brian Rauf here to walk you through and recap a pretty crazy week of college basketball, if we're going to be honest. A lot certainly to get through before we preview biggest games of the weekend. Not as many like total bangers this weekend. Some good games, but that tends to happen right now when there's college football playoff, NFL playoffs, load up on the week. So let's recap what we saw this week. Before we do, make sure you subscribe to Basket Under Review if you have not already. Doing so gets you access to two things. Get you access to all the paywalled content, the premium content at basketunderreview.com, and get you access to the Discord, which features Chili Donovan's insights, all his scoops, and helps you join or get you access to join the best community of college basketball fans there is on the internet. Subscribe to Basket Under Review today. Okay, a lot to get to. We're going to start with Duke and Louisville. Duke picked up the win, came back to beat Louisville. First maybe 30 seconds of the game looked like Louisville might run away with it. Looked like that for much of the first half before Cam Boozer and Caleb Foster decided that they weren't going to let that happen. A really great performance from the Blue Devils there. The last, 3 times they've been down at half at Louisville, they've come back and won all 3 of those. No lead certainly feels safe for the Cardinals when they face the Blue Devils. But what was your biggest takeaway from this game? What did you see?
Louisville is going to have issues for the rest of the year just because they're too dependent on jump shooting. They couldn't miss to begin the game. Ryan Conwell started the game on a heater. Ali Khalifa, I think, went 4 of 4 in the first half because they were leaving him open so he wouldn't be an elite passer off of cuts. And Louisville was up and everything was all good and everyone was happy. And then the shot stopped going in. Ali Khalifa stopped attempting his threes. They basically box and won Ryan Conwell, where they were like, you are not beating us for putting Dame Sarr, one of the best defenders in the country, on you, and everyone else is going to have to beat us. And it was basically just like Adrian Woolley driving into space and like either putting it up or kicking it out to one of their bad three-point shooters who were completely off the mark. Outside of Khalifa, their bench went 0 for 10 from deep. So without Mikal Brown as sort of a safety valve to alleviate the Ryan Conwell pressure, they became a predictable offense and one that didn't have their good shooters taking good shots down the stretch, and they couldn't hit anything. Duke completely dominated the second half. And unfortunately for Louisville, their losses are all the exact same. They don't shoot well from 3. You can't be so dependent on hitting 3-pointers to be a good team and expect to like make the Final Four.
Yeah, Ali Khalifa 5 from 5 from deep, which hasn't happened in his career, may not happen again in his career. The rest of the team, though, went 7 of 33 from deep without that. That's certainly not good. I take away 2 things from this game, one on the Duke side of things, one on the Louisville side of things. On the Louisville side of things, the perimeter defense is not there. It's awful, quite frankly. They could not keep Caleb Foster out of the paint. And without Mikal Brown, which there are rumors about how injured he really is. He came out and said that he would never, purposely miss games and things. He messed up his back, which we'll take him at his word for that. Certainly want to see him back on the court sooner rather than later. But without him, they couldn't keep Duke out of the paint, and they could not get into the paint themselves off penetration. You were relying on Ryan Conwell and Adrian Woolley to attack the rim, which both of them are capable of doing, but they're not playmakers when they do so, right? 13 assists for Louisville in this game, 14 turnovers. And that was spread about everybody who handled the ball for Louisville in that game. They missed their point guard. They missed somebody attacking. And I think we're seeing now on this roster that without Mikal Brown, there isn't anybody who can do that, the playmaking and the penetrating at the level a team like Louisville needs it to. It kind of makes everything else work. You can have a team full of shooters, that's great, but you need somebody to collapse the defense to take the pressure off the shooters and get them the open looks. Mikal Brown appears to be, at least right now, the only guy in Louisville who is capable of doing that at least on a consistent basis against teams like Duke. From the Duke standpoint, we've been asking for a guard to step up for them at some point this season. And Caleb Foster went for 20 in this game. He took advantage of Louisville's perimeter defense not being up to snuff. He was able to get into the paint really whenever he wanted to. He spearheaded that second half comeback for Duke with his play in that game, his ability to get in the lane, finish with his left hand in particular, was really, really good. And this kind of improvement from him started in that Arkansas game where he also led the comeback in that game or helped Duke separate themselves. The first 7 games of the season for Caleb Foster were typical Caleb Foster-esque, right? 8.4 points, 2.4 assists, nothing super crazy. The last 8 games, though, so starting with that Arkansas game, that performance, through this Louisville game, he's raised his scoring average by 3.5 points. He's playing 8 more minutes a game. He's getting to the paint a lot more. The percent of points he gets in the paint, from 30%, 40%. He's getting to the foul line significantly more. His usage is up. We can debate if he is good enough to be the guy Duke can rely on to win a national title in the backcourt. I think that's one thing. But we've been wanting to see things like this from Caleb Foster or somebody on Duke going back to the last season kind of in the backcourt. And these last 8 games, again, since the Arkansas game, Caleb Foster is doing that. And Duke does not win that game without Caleb Foster. And if Duke gets this Caleb Foster throughout the rest of the season, they're going to be dangerous and may very well make it back to the final.
Yeah, I think one of the smartest things John Shire did over the last 3 games was start Caden Boozer. And these were his first 3 starts of the season. It had been Nick Kamenya, and then it had been Dame Sarr. The difference here and what makes a lot more sense is Caleb Foster is now a combo guard when he plays alongside Caden Boozer. Caden Boozer is not a very good scorer. He's the number 1 passer on the team right alongside his brother. And just, the issue down the stretch with Texas Tech was they did not have enough shot making, enough creation outside of Cameron Boozer. So to be able to play Caleb Foster on and off the ball, have an extra ball handler because Kamenya and Sarr are strictly spacers, to have more players that can dribble, pass, shoot in your starting 5 is definitely going to reap more benefits down the stretch. And it definitely did over the last couple of games where Duke's offense, at least, has looked really sharp.
Yeah, Hemania and Darren Harris have seen their playing time gradually dwindle. In this game, at least, I think we're starting to see Duke settle on a 7-man rotation that they really trust. You'll see Hemania throw in there. You'll see Harrison in there for maybe a TV timeout each half. But Duke is starting to rely on 7 guys mostly. I think that's probably what we'll see from them for the rest of the season.
Oh, the luxury to have 2 of the very best defenders in the country as your 2 bench players, and Sarr and Malik Brown. Oh, how nice.
How nice. How nice. Later on that night, this was Tuesday night, Houston held off Texas Tech. Shout out Kingston Flemings. Another phenomenal performance from him. Cougars get the win, but a very good game, good back and forth game. Take more away from Houston winning or more away from Texas Tech almost winning and keeping it close against a very good Houston team on the road?
These are 2 very good basketball teams. I don't think that needed much explanation. I'm still dumbfounded by Houston's inability to get rebounds. This is obviously they're a good rebounding team. They out-rebounded Texas Tech, but this is the worst offensive rebounding team Kelvin Sampson has had in nearly nearly a full decade since they've been this bad on the offensive glass. Chris Sinek, for as good as he is on the defensive boards, only 1 offensive rebound in this one. It was mostly JoJo Tugler on the boards, and Texas Tech without Luke Bamgoye and without Josiah Mosley playing all season is not a menacing rebounding team. This should have been a game where Houston dominated down low and on the boards, and they didn't do either of those things. Obviously, Kingston Flemings bailed them out, as he's done multiple times this year, and that's all fine and dandy until he doesn't bail you out in the game, and you can't fall back on elite interior or rebounding play. And then what? I feel like a down stretch is coming for Houston this season, because Kingston Flemings, as amazing as he's been this year, is not going to be incredible always. And I don't see the safety valve of the boards to really save them, which probably would not have saved them in this one had Flemings not been a superhuman down the stretch.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I wrote more about it in a Rauf report that's up on basketballreview.com. This was maybe a week or 2 ago. This Houston team is just different from typical Houston teams, right? They are one of the best offensive teams that Kelvin Sampson's had. Statistically, they're also one of the worst defensive teams that Kelvin Sampson has had at Houston. Now, I said this too. You can be a very good defense and still be the worst defense that Kelvin Sampson has had, right? The question is if the offense is good enough to make up for it. It was in this game. Defensively, they still slowed Christian Anderson. He had 7 points in 40 minutes on 3 of 11 shooting. Like, they did a good job slowing him. I know he did make a couple plays late that looked like they might be a difference. JT Toppin was slowed for about 25, 30 minutes. Then he came on down the stretch and made some big plays for Texas Tech as well. The big thing, though, from Houston, no bench points at all. 0. And that's going to be a thing that's going to continue to I think, monitor with them. Not only were there 0 points, there was one shot attempt. One shot attempt from your bench. That's okay against Texas Tech, who got 2 points from their bench. But I don't know if that's sustainable for Houston to get to where Houston wants to go. And this is something we, again, have talked about with Houston this year. You want to see some depth and some rotation because the starting 5 is good, but the best Houston teams, you've been able to go 7, 8, 9 and maintain that pressure. I don't know if you can maintain the defensive pressure Houston wants to if you can't go to your bench at all. Like that is a problem, something to monitor, certainly. Our Kingston Fleming's tracker, by the way, he's still analytically the best guard that Kelvin Sampson has had.
It's a good player. When we talk about Houston precedents, another interesting thing that I think we're not talking about enough because we're just like assuming Houston's this dominant team that they've always been. They're 11th in KenPom right now. They haven't been this low since November 12th, 2021. So it's been 4 years and 3 months since Houston's been as quote unquote mortal as they are right now. So Big 12 teams, now is your time. I don't even know if they can, beat Houston, but if you can beat Houston, you kind of got to do it now, right now.
That's on Baylor, West Virginia, and Arizona State.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, like, the schedule for Houston, these two will meet on January 24th in Lubbock. In between now and then, Houston goes to Baylor, then he gets West Virginia at home and Arizona State at home. There is a stretch here for Houston to potentially try and get things back on track before they rematch with Texas Tech. But this is a nice schedule, I think, you take if you're Houston, because your biggest games, you get BYU once, that is February 7th. You get Arizona State once, Arizona once, and Kansas once. And the Arizona, Kansas games are all in a row, February 16th, 21st, and 23rd. That stretch will be interesting for Houston, but Brian, we have a month until we get there.
But Brian, they're playing an NBA draft pick on Saturday. What do you mean an easy schedule? Come on.
Yeah, James Najee cramping out there as Iowa State beat Baylor because it's been 7 months since he's played competitive basketball. Maybe there was much ado about nothing.
In the two games that James Najee's played, aka their 2 Big 12 games, they are last in the Big 12 in defensive rebounding rate. So he has not helped on the glass at all.
Well, how bad would it be if he wasn't there, too? Whoa. Interesting. Interesting there. The game, at least before the week started, the game of the week was Wednesday night in Nashville, Vanderbilt against Alabama. Nate Oates proudly proclaiming that Vanderbilt has not played anybody yet this season. Alabama has. That was going to be the difference. Well, Vanderbilt wins 96-60. Goodness gracious, 96-90. Game was not necessarily that close, though. Vandy led by double digits for a good bit of the second half there. Once the Baron Philon went out with full body cramps, which Nate Oates also had things to say about that after the game. But I think this is obviously the biggest win of Vanderbilt's season to this point. They're a top 5 team. KenPom. Just how good is this Vanderbilt team?
Well, the best player on the floor in this game, and now the new number 1 player in KenPom's SEC Player of the Year rankings, was Tyler Tanner. He was the best player on the court. And obviously it's one thing for Vanderbilt and for Tyler Tanner to do it against what Nate Oates isn't completely wrong, a lighter schedule to start the year, but to play a Bama team and to pretty emphatically be the single best player on the court, which Tyler Tanner was, that was his coming out party. He will not be back in Nashville next year. He will be in the NBA. He is a superstar, and having superstar point guard is the biggest recipe to success. They are legit. They can beat you in so many different ways. Tyler Nickel and Tyler Harris are 2 awesome spacers from the 3-point shooting spot. They went 2 for 9 from deep. It didn't matter. Vanderbilt wasn't shooting the ball well. It didn't matter. Duke Miles was in foul trouble, only played 25 minutes coming off of injury. It didn't matter. Jalen Washington, their only true big, went 1 of 4 inside the arc around the rim. He struggled to finish. Guess what? It didn't matter. They had the best player. They were the better team. And for basically every single game in SEC play, they will have the best player and they will be the best team in the game.
They keep answering every question about them, right? You haven't played anybody. here. It's fine. I question if they could handle an offense like this with their defense. I mean, Bama scored 90, kind of shorthanded, and it didn't matter because they just scored more, right? Like that is the ultimate goal, is to score more than the other team, and Vanderbilt has no problem doing that. This was, I think, very validating for Tanner to have this kind of performance against this team because of how good Bama's guards are. And him and Fallon were going back and forth before Fallon started cramping up. So that I think we were robbed of potentially some fun stuff down the stretch in that. But he certainly played really well. Him and Duke Miles were the best backcourt, even when Fallon was healthy. They were the better backcourt in this game, and I think that bodes really well for Vanderbilt. The one question that's left is how they handle a team with like a true dominant big that runs through the front court. But that team would also then have to defend Vanderbilt, right? And have that guy be able to defend on the perimeter. Bama not having Aiden Sherrill, we can talk about how impactful Aiden Sherrill really is or is not for Alabama, but they had no size in this game. They had no answer inside. Caton Bristow played 8 minutes in this game, fouled out because he couldn't handle the interior part of that. Noah Williamson played 4 minutes. He had 4 fouls. Like, Bama was forced to play incredibly small in this game, partially because of the way Vanderbilt played. All credit to Vanderbilt for what they did in this game. Looking at their schedule, it's going to be a while before we see them really go at it with somebody. But if there is a potential slip up before maybe Arkansas on January 20th or
Florida on the 17th.
Florida on the 17th was the one I was circling because of Florida's front court. Like, if you want to know how they handle bigs, for as bad as Florida's guards are, which we'll talk about later on the show, that's going to be a good test for them, I think. But they are favored in the rest of their games on KenPom.
Yeah. But they only have a 1.2 chance of running the table. So take that for what you will.
Yes, but if you're Vanderbilt, you take a 1.2% chance of an undefeated season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Michigan numbers, but it's not half bad.
Yeah, they've come a long way from the Jerry Stackhouse era in Nashville. Certainly.
In 2 years. It shows what hiring a good coach from James Madison can do to a college sports program.
Just ask Indiana.
Yeah.
What else did we see this week? These were obviously the 3 games we highlighted in Monday's show we wanted to touch on again, but there was a lot of other stuff that happened this week. A lot of crazy comebacks that happened this week. What did you see, or what do you want to make sure we touch on here?
I got 2 here. Number 1, since nobody else in the country is going to talk about them and they're a power conference team, Minnesota is 3-1 in the Big Ten. They beat Iowa, like big bad Iowa, who just like put themselves on the map after dismantling UCLA. They beat Northwestern at Northwestern. They took down Indiana pretty handily at the barn. And yes, they got killed by Purdue, but it was a 3-point game at halftime. So for basically of the 8 halves they've played even or winning hoop in 7 of them. For a Minnesota team that has 7 scholarship players healthy, 2 of which their entire bench are freshmen that were not supposed to play at all this year. Like, for Nico Medved to be this scrappy, something that Ben Johnson really was not able to come close to. Through 4 games already, like, Minnesota made an absolutely perfect hire at head coach, and once they have talent on that roster, are going to turn it around. I'm sure they're going to turn it around. And then second, a lot of narrative about Darren Peterson and the cramping and the hamstring and the this and the that. Can we just talk about how unbelievable he is? He's so good. In his 2 Big 12 games, he's shooting 44% from 3. He sat with those cramps, got cold with the hamstring, came in, got fouled, made 3 free throws. None of the shots hit the rim. He's an automatic scorer. He's one of the most, if not the most gifted on-ball college guard scorers at the wing spot I've ever seen. And like, let the narrative of the hamstring take over. I don't care. I want to sit down and watch Kansas whenever he's on the court because he's an unbelievable scorer.
I think from the outside, we have no medical information about Darren Peterson, right? But if you were going to question his competitiveness, right, he does not come back in that game with however many seconds there were to shoot that 3. And then to go to the foul line and make all 3 of those to force overtime, I think does speak to just the mental fortitude he has too. Like, that showed me a lot him coming back in the game, because he subbed himself out with 2.5 minutes left in that game. Optically, that did not look good. I think he more than made up for it coming back into the game and making those free throws, certainly. There are a number of places to go with my takeaways. Fog Allen still has it. You also can't kill UConn. Just ask Providence. UConn continues to show me the championship DNA. But I do need to talk about Georgetown. This was something I teased this week. I do need to talk about Georgetown. We have done it on every show because of how high I was on Georgetown in the preseason. Perhaps I should not have been, given the 1 for 23 second half shooting performance they put up in the loss to DePaul this week. But what I want to talk about with them here, we had talked in the preseason about this year being a real inflection point for Ed Cooley's tenure. And it's the same way it was in Patrick Ewing's tenure at Georgetown. It is fair to use revisionist history with Ewing's tenure because of how bad it was the last 2 years, which if you don't remember how bad it was his last 2 years, they were 13-50 combined his last 2 seasons. It was rough. His first season, he took over from JT3, John Thompson III. Patrick Ewing did back in 2017-2018 season. They were 15-15. They were not great, but they knew they were going to be building. Second year, they were 19-14. The NIT finished tied for third in the Big East. Things were building up under Patrick Ewing. The start of that 2019-20 season, his third year, things were going well, and there was hope that they were going to be a pretty good team that season. If you recall, James Akinjo was on that team. Mac McClung was on that team. A couple other guys who are playing professionally, whether it's in the NBA or overseas, were on that team. Then things fell apart after in December, I think it was. They were 10-3 through December 28th. Things fell apart. There were some off-court things. There were some legal matters with Josh LeBlanc. A couple other guys got wrapped up in. At that break, the winter break, 4 guys ended up being either held out or transferring out. Akinjo being one of them, went to Arizona, then ended up at Baylor. It was pretty good. The rest of that season for Georgetown, they ended up 15-17 overall, meaning they closed 5-14 over their last 19 games. Obviously, the rest of Ewing's tenure went downhill from there. 13-13 in the COVID-shortened season following that. Then 13-50 over the last 2 seasons. But up until this third season, the first 2.5, things were looking positive for Patrick Ewing. Now let's go to Ed Cooley. He takes over that team that was 13-50 over 2 seasons. Go 9-23 his first year, which not great, but again, he's building something from virtually nothing. That place was very, very bad. Then last year, they go 18-16, double your win total. There's significant progress there. You go from 10th in the Big East to 7th, doing okay. I still hold true. Everything we knew about Georgetown in the preseason, I would hold true to them potentially breaking out this year. You had Malik Mack, who looked awesome. I thought KJ Lewis was a good fit. You had the makings of a team that could make a run, that could do some things in the Big East that was pretty wide open, as we've talked about. 5-0 start, have wins over Maryland on the road and against Clemson. Clemson team that's 13-3 undefeated in the ACC right now, by the way. Georgetown beat that team. Things were looking good. Then you have Vince Iwuchukwu's medical procedure, which he is back now, but you have that. You have the Sean Harris-Smith leaving the team. You have guys who have missed a handful of games due to injury or the flu that went through the team. That Ed Cooley has not been shy about that. You see random guys who have missed a game here and there. That's why. You look up now, and Georgetown is 9-6 and 1-3 in the Big East. Things are going in the wrong direction, and the pattern is eerily similar to what we saw with Patrick Ewing. Right now, with the way this team is playing offense, there is no hope or optimism that things are going to turn around anytime soon. There's nothing you can latch onto and say, well, at least there's this. There's this. That's not there. The defense, which you would typically rely on under Ed Cooley, that's been his calling card throughout his coaching tenure. It's 125th in the country on KenPom. Malik Mack, his offense has not been there for about a month. KJ Lewis, who looked like an all Big East caliber guy the first part of the season, has come back down to earth a little bit there. The bench that we saw produce a good bit in the first part of the season has been incredibly inconsistent. They're 302nd in three-point shooting. There's nothing to hang your hat on with this team. I'm not going to totally shut the door on them being able to turn it around this season, but I would be shocked if they did. And if they don't, and the season continues going down this path, you're going to have to really question where Ed Cooley is, because the first 3 years will have exactly mirrored what Patrick Ewing did, and we know how that ended at Georgetown. And I don't think Cooley's going to get 6 years the same way Ewing did.
Yeah, well, listen, coaches in the offseason, when you get your portal haul, don't put together a roster that shot a combined 26.2% on unguarded catch and shoot threes, which I marked in the offseason on May 13th. I said, Georgetown's roster on unguarded catch and shoot, non-dribble threes, no one in their face, 26.2% on 175 attempts. If you can't shoot, you can't score, and you can't win, and Georgetown can't score, they can't win. Their season's over. You're being too kind. Their season is over.
The reason I'm not saying their season's over is because I still want to be able to come back and claim it if it turns around somehow.
No.
but there is nothing that they have shown the last month and a half that would suggest this is going to turn around. It feels like it's spiraling, and I don't know where they get it back or where they can lean on to get it back, which is disappointing because it's been a while. But I think the Big East is better and basketball is better when Georgetown is good and competitive. Let's get to the weekend's games, though. Enough lamenting about my flawed preseason take, let's say.
Happens.
Let's talk with Tennessee and Florida, because those two are going to meet this weekend. Should be a very fun game, a game that both teams need, quite frankly. Tennessee still needs kind of some validation to have them be a legitimate, I think, top 25 caliber team for a lot of people. And Florida's quietly not beaten a good team yet this year. A lot on the line, I think, for both of them from that standpoint. So what are you looking for in this game?
Number 1 in offensive rebounding rate versus number 2 in offensive rebounding rate. Tennessee's first, Florida's second. So a lot of second chances in this game. Last year, this game was an absolute three-point variance fest. At home, Tennessee beat Florida. Florida beat Tennessee by 30 because Tennessee made 14% of their threes. Then you flip it, Tennessee beat Florida by 20 because Florida made 15% of their threes. In other words, both these teams play elite defense, but the one that can perform at least semi-admirably offensively will take home this game. Tennessee will slow Florida down. Florida loves to play in transition. Tennessee won't let them. Tennessee is going to switch almost everything and keep the ball in front. You know what that means? A lot of Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan pull-up jumpers. You know who that's bad for? Florida. And probably for our eyes, too. I don't want to see that either. But Florida is going to play a lot of drop coverage and make Tennessee beat them off of the bounce. Jacoby Gillespie can do that. I don't think anybody else on the Volunteers can. So this is either a Jacoby Gillespie hero game, Nate Emmett finally breaks out, or whichever team gets more rebounds. And despite the fact that they're number 1 and number 2 in the country in offensive rebounding rate, Florida's way better at the defensive rebounding aspect of things. They should win the glass. They're at home. They should win this game.
Yeah, game being in Gainesville, I think may mean a lot here. I'm glad you brought up some of those players, because I was going to ask, what do you have more faith in? Florida's backcourt going up against Tennessee's guards and that defense, or Nate Ament going up against Florida's front court?
Honestly, Nate Ament, just because I think he can. He gets himself into good spots. The ball just has to go in. I never once believed in Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan. You can go back and listen and look and read. This is not a good matchup for Florida's backcourt at all.
No, I am surprised Flan has struggled as much as he had. Xavier Lee, quite frankly, I'm a little bit surprised they've struggled to this extent. I did not expect Xavier Lee to come into Florida and be a superstar. But I thought Flan would be better, given what we saw from him in the same conference last year. And I know he was hurt and missed some time, but I thought we'd see some of that translate. It has not. Keep waiting for Florida. We talk about regression to the mean. Keep waiting for Florida shooting to progress to the mean a little bit. They're still 350th nationally in three-point shooting at 27.7%. It's January 9th. There's not a lot of time for this to correct itself. Maybe this is just who Florida is. this season. It will be interesting there for sure. I do want to shout out Thomas Hawk. I've read about this in the Rauf report that is up on basketballinterview.com. Make sure you check that out. There are 2 players in the country who can match his analytical profile this season for what he has done.
Cameron Boozer? Yes.
And Josh
Jefferson.
Yep.
Yes.
You're correct.
Let's go.
2 All-American candidates. That is the level that he is playing at. And I every time I watch Florida play, I wonder where they would be without him, because it is bleak. He is keeping their season afloat almost single-handedly right now. I know that they are 13th on KenPom, so like the bottom is not going to fall out on Florida. But that Georgia win that they just picked up on Tuesday is the best win they have this season.
Yuck.
It's not good. It's not good right now in Gainesville. We'll see if they can get themselves back on track or continue to have themselves on track against Tennessee. Let's talk about the Nebraska ball fever that's sweeping the nation. The undefeated Nebraska Cornhuskers going to face Indiana in this game. Should be a 3-point fest. Maybe we see 50 total threes taken in this game, 60 total threes taken in this game. What else should we be looking for?
I've stood on this show and picked against Nebraska in their 2 big games against Illinois on the road and against Michigan State at home. And I just have to say that Nebraska's been absolutely unbelievable this season. And I'm going to do it a 3rd time. I'm going to pick against them a 3rd time. Indiana's home versus road splits have been absolutely absurd. Like, they just went and beat Maryland at Maryland, but Maryland is barely a Division I men's basketball team at the moment. And so it's like, that's one thing. But outside of that road win that they just picked up, and outside of a Marquette just as bad as Maryland situation against top 100 teams away from home, they lost by 9 to Minnesota, which, like, I gave them their credit, but it's still not a very talented basketball team. They lost by 9 on a neutral to Louisville, and they lost by 12 to Kentucky, which looks worse every time that Kentucky takes the floor. And that was pre-Jaden Quainton's Kentucky. So, but Indiana at home is like an absolute wagon juggernaut. They beat Penn State by 41. They beat Washington, scoring unbelievable amounts of points, especially 52 in the first half. They look like a juggernaut at home because they're automatic from deep, and at any given time they have at least 4 players that can pass, dribble, and shoot the 3 ball. Nebraska's whole deal defensively is to trap, force tough passes, and force swing kick threes. Indiana has the personnel to destroy that scheme if these shots go in, if Lamar Wilkerson is on his game, if Tatum Conaway and Connor Enright are hitting threes like they have to start Big Ten play. At home, Nebraska team coming off a couple of huge wins, a lot of pressure starting to ride on that undefeated season. I think that Indiana has not had a signature win this season, and this feels like the spot where they can get it done. They just match up really well against Nebraska's defense.
Nebraska's defense, as you mentioned, gives up a lot of threes. Both of these teams want to take a lot of threes. The difference is Nebraska's defense gives up a lot of threes. Indiana's defense has made a point to not give up a lot of threes. That is a DeVries staple going back to his time at Drake. Want to shoot a lot of threes, take that away on the other end. So that'll be an interesting battle to watch and see if that hurts Nebraska at all in this game. I imagine it will, given how good Indiana is, how many good shooters Indiana has. My question with Indiana, you mentioned how much they struggle on the road or have struggled on the road. How much of that is because they struggle on the road versus how much of it is they struggle against good teams? Because the only really legitimate team that they've played at home, or the team you could question, is Washington. That's the only top 50 team that Indiana has played at home this season. The only other top 50. The only other top 100 team they've played at home is Kansas State. So is it a road thing, or is it a good team thing with Indiana? And I think we're going to find that out against Nebraska, because for how good Nebraska is, they're not going to overwhelm you athletically. And I think that is a question with Indiana, right, is how they handle this group of mid-major all-stars, how they handle legitimate power conference like size and athleticism. They want to space the floor, do all that stuff, and do things to neutralize it. Nebraska's not going to face them with that. Nebraska's going to try and beat Indiana playing a very similar style. So I think if Indiana is going to get kind of on track in this game, or this season against good competition. This is a great entry point for them to do so. We'll see if they end up doing it, but that's a big question for me and how we're going to look at Indiana the rest of the season. Is it really a road thing, or is it a good team and quality competition thing when it comes to the Hoosiers?
When we talk about matchups, another key point is because Indiana eliminates those 3-pointers, they have to play a pretty strict drop coverage. But what you do when you play drop is you leave pick and pop threes open. And Rink Mast is perhaps the best pick and pop 3 player in the country. So Darren DeVries is going to have to switch up his defense. You cannot leave your big man in the paint against a Nebraska pick and roll because Mast will destroy you. Just ask Michigan State.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move to the SEC, back to the SEC. Auburn and Arkansas are going to face off in Auburn. I think that fan base needs to get back on the court, needs probably a win after what happened against Texas A&M. Really what happened against Georgia too. Auburn is 0-2 in the SEC. They've lost in overtime at Georgia, where they had a miracle missed free throw rebound to force overtime in that game. And then it looked like they had a half-court shot to win the game against A&M that was ruled off by a millisecond. Maybe we get another close game this one. I hope I hope that comes to fruition. That'll be a lot of fun for us college basketball fans. But what are you looking for in this matchup? How does Auburn keep it close against an Arkansas team that seems to be rounding into form?
Yeah, I think Stephen Pearl might begin this game still arguing the call from last game. I think he's still arguing.
Still got the iPad out showing the refs that no, it was out, ball was out.
Yeah, Arkansas does not get enough credit for how good they've been this year. If you told me there was a team who only had 3 losses, all within single digits, against Houston on a neutral, against Duke on a neutral, at Michigan State, won every other game, like that's a top 10 team. Of course it's a top 10 team, but we're not treating Arkansas like that. Darius Acuff has been playing like a top 10 player in the sport this year. And he's turned it up in SEC play where he's had 55 points in 2 games to go along with 13 assists against a Chris Beard defense and a Rick Barnes defense. Like the way that Ole Miss has kind of been bad this year, that's still a Rick Barnes defense and a Chris Beard defense, and he has done that. No offense to Stephen Pearl, who has been the defensive coordinator for the Tigers in recent years. This defense stinks. Auburn cannot defend. And so even though this is a home game for them and they have the ability to score with Arkansas, I do not see how on earth anyone, namely Tahad Pettiford, stops Darius Acuff and this Arkansas attack that's just been truly dominant against the non-elite defenses in the country this year. And Auburn is not an elite defense.
Acuff has quietly been like All-American good, SEC Player of the Year good. I don't know if he'll be an All-American or win SEC Player of the Year, but he, through January 9th, has played well enough to be named an All-American or win that award. Like he has been spectacular. And this Arkansas team, you meant like they've come close in all those losses, and all those losses are not ones that you hang your head about at all. If anything, I think you take pride in how well you played in those games. But I also think that comes from the way we don't view them in the same kind of categories. Maybe we should, is because they have beaten teams like Auburn. They have not beaten teams at that upper tier, right? Their best wins are against Tennessee, who we just talked about some of the issues with Tennessee. Texas Tech, which looks much better in retrospect, but at the time we were wondering how good Texas Tech was, right? And then against a Louisville team that we have questions about how good Louisville is, as we talked about earlier in the show. But I also don't know when we're really going to find that out or how much it's going to matter for Arkansas this season. You go down the list of their schedule, and they really benefit from the unbalanced schedule in the SEC. You know how many Ken Pom top 25 teams they have left on the schedule?
Well, I'm looking at it right now. So the answer would be 3.
3.
Yeah.
They get Vanderbilt at home. It's the only time they play Vanderbilt.
They're going to win that game.
They have to go play Alabama on the road, but they only play Bama one time. And then they go play at Florida, who is a Ken Pom top 25 team. But as we mentioned, Florida hasn't beaten anybody good this season. The path is there if Arkansas maintains this level for Arkansas to win the SEC. which, given how Kentucky has played, like the storylines of that would be just incredible. If Calipari is able to win the SEC with Arkansas, but I think that's on the table for Arkansas, and I think going on the road to Ole Miss as they did in their last game and winning says one thing, but to go on the road to Auburn and beat Auburn on the heels of that Ole Miss game, I think would take this Arkansas team to a different level, where maybe the SEC title dream becomes a little bit more reality because you've shown you can maintain this level of play against more quality competition on the road with Auburn, right? And to boil it down to one thing, it's going to come down to Darius Acuff because he has been the biggest difference maker for this team. I think we know enough about the vets on this team to know they're going to play to a certain floor. Malik Thomas can be the kind of J.R. Smith bench gunner who raises or lowers your ceiling based on how he plays. But Acuff has been the guy who's been the consistent star. And if he continues to be the consistent star, this Arkansas team can win the SEC.
I have it circled on my calendar. January 20th, hosting Vanderbilt. Arkansas is going to win that game. We'll have it on the show when we get there, but they're going to win that game. I have it circled down.
Okay. Tyler Tanner, Darius Acuff. That'd be fun. That'd be some fun stuff there. I think you can see which way we're leaning when we get to our picks for that Arkansas Auburn game. The last one we want to talk about though and highlight is Illinois and Iowa. Really good game. Two teams that play very different styles. What needs to happen for either side?
It's the first noon Fox game on a Sunday of the year. Once the NFL is done, at least the regular season, we get our noon Fox games. And those are always bangers. So typically Bill Rafferty on the call too, which just automatically makes it better. This is going to be an outstanding matchup between two of the best coaches, two of the smartest coaches in the sport. Illinois is a team that has kind of changed their offensive style in recent years. They've been a lot more rim and three, and while they're still shooting a lot of three-pointers, it's a very drive-heavy team. It's a very individualistic team, and that's what Iowa wants you to do. Iowa is a team that forces a lot of isolation, that says, beat us one-on-one. We're not going to let you play team basketball, and that's just like Andrei Stojakovic music. He will gladly take whatever defender Iowa throws on him and just bully him into the post and try to score around the hoop. But then on the other hand, you get Kylan Boswell, who is for pound one of the best guard defenders in the country, guarding Bennett Sturts probably the entire game, and Illinois doesn't switch anything. So this is just going to be a chess match of individual matchups and teams trying to eliminate what other teams want to do. These teams do not play again in the regular season, but I have to imagine there's a real chance they play each other in the postseason in the Big Ten tournament.
I'm not going to spoil everything I wrote in the Rauf report that is up on basketunderreview.com. Make sure you subscribe, check that out. But I do have a pretty good section on Iowa there, pretty good size section on Iowa. I have questions about how good Iowa actually is. I will leave it at that. I think we will find out in this Illinois game because Illinois going to your house and going on the road, Illinois is a team that is, quite frankly, high variance. They have some games where they look incredible. They have some games where they look dreadful. You got to take advantage of a team like that when you are going to be as steady as a Ben McCollum or an Iowa team is supposed to be. Bennett Sturts should be the best player on the court in this game. I think if you are as good as Iowa wants to be, expects to be, this is a game you can get at home. I have questions about Iowa. You can read the Rauf report at basketunderreview.com to find out why I think that. But this will be a fun game to watch for sure. Good way to get a Sunday started as well before we get to the NFL playoff games. Let's go ahead and pick these four. You are still 4 up on me in our week-long or season-long picks. We split last week. We had 2 different. I had Duke over Louisville. You had Vandy over Alabama. Let's start with Tennessee and Florida. Go back chronological order here. Chronological order here. Tennessee or Florida?
Let's go Florida.
I'm going Florida as well. I'm taking the home team in a game that feels kind of coin flippy. I'll go Florida as well. Nebraska or Indiana?
I'll also take the home team in a game that feels kind of coin flippy. I will go with Indiana.
something special's brewing with the basketball, man. Going with the Huskers in this one. I trust them more than I trust Indiana right now. Obviously, wouldn't surprise me Indiana won. I trust the Huskers. Arkansas or Auburn?
I think we get an Arkansas road win here. Let's pick the road team.
I think we do as well. Illinois or Iowa?
I think we're both going to, considering your inconspicuous slight shade towards against the Hawkeyes, I think we're both going to go with Illinois in this one.
I'm going to go with Illinois as well. Yes, I'm with you there. Again, I'm not like out on Iowa, but they have shown some things that I think should raise alarm bells that people aren't necessarily talking about. So,
right. Well, maybe we'll talk about them on Monday.
Yes, when we're through that, we'll either say I was very wrong, or we'll talk about it on Friday or Monday. We'll see. It'll be fun to watch these games and everything else that'll happen over the weekend. Again, we'll be back on Monday to break all of that down. Talk to you then.